All right, I want you to imagine something. Picture yourself floating high above the earth about 1,000 years ago. What do you see? No, you're not seeing grand buildings or sparkling canals. You're seeing water, mist, and mud. That's it. A soggy, unwelcoming marsh at the mouth of a river. This is where the incredible story of Amsterdam begins. Not with a plan for greatness, but with wet feet and a truly impossible idea. And this quote from the writer Albert Camus just nails it, doesn't it? It perfectly captures the spirit of what we're talking about today. This is the story of a city born from a constant fight against nature, a place that always had to invent itself, trying to build something beautiful, something like heaven, out of the most difficult circumstances you can imagine. So let's get right into it, back to the very beginning, to the city's impossible birth. I mean, how on earth do you build one of the world's great cities on ground that's basically as stable as pudding? Well, it all starts with one simple, almost desperate act. You build a dam. Now, what's so incredible here is how they pulled this off. First, you've got the soggy marsh. Then, around the year 1200, some fishermen build a dam in the river Amstel, and boom, you get Amstel Redam. But the ground still couldn't hold up a building, so for every single house, they had to drive these long, wooden poles deep, deep into the mud until they hit solid sand. The city is, and this is literal, an entire forest hammered upside down into the ground. So in the early days, Amsterdam was a city made of wood, which, as you can probably guess, was a huge fire hazard. And sure enough, during the Middle Ages, massive fires just ripped through the city, not once, but twice, wiping out whole neighborhoods. The people learned a very hard lesson. They started to rebuild, but this time with brick and stone. It was a change that literally hardened the city and changed its character forever. All that resilience, all that ingenuity, it really set the stage for something amazing. We're now jumping forward to the 17th century, when Amsterdam doesn't just grow, it explodes. This is the Dutch Golden Age, and for a short, brilliant period, this little city becomes the wealthiest, most powerful trading hub on the entire planet. Can you just imagine the harbor back then? A dense forest of ship masts from the Dutch East India Company. The air is thick with the smell of tar and exotic spices you've never even heard of. The docks are just overflowing with treasures from Asia: pepper, nutmeg, silk, porcelain. This small city, built on a swamp, had somehow become the warehouse of the world. Of course, with all that wealth and all those people, the city was bursting at the seams. So the city planners came up with this absolute stroke of genius, the Grachtengordel, the Canal Ring. As you can see, they just dug these 3 massive concentric canals around the old city. It was a plan that was both beautiful and incredibly practical, and it created the iconic cityscape we all know today. But here's the thing, the Golden Age wasn't just about money. Amsterdam got a reputation for being tolerant, and it started attracting thinkers, philosophers, and refugees from all over Europe who were fleeing persecution. This incredible melting pot of ideas and cultures led to an artistic explosion, led by masters like Rembrandt van Rijn, who just perfectly captured the soul of the city in that unique, misty light. You know, what goes up must come down. After the dizzying heights of the Golden Age, a long, slow period of decline began. The harbor filled with silts, trade dried up, and Napoleon's army even occupied the city. For about a century, Amsterdam just fell asleep. But it was about to be woken up with a jolt by the roar of the Industrial Revolution. And this slide really puts that contrast into perspective. On one hand, you have the 18th century, stagnation, decay, sleep. But then, bam, the 19th century hits with a shot of pure energy. A new canal connected the city right to the North Sea, factories popped up everywhere, and a massive new project was about to change the city's orientation for good. And that project was the Centraal Station. I mean, look at it. It's more than a train station. It's a monumental castle made of red brick, built on thousands of piles, right in front of the old harbor. And here's the crucial part. The city literally turned its back on the water that made it rich and faced the future, the railways. Okay, we need to take a breath here because the story takes a very dark turn. In May 1940, German troops marched into Amsterdam, and the city's long, proud tradition of tolerance was brutally crushed. And behind those beautiful, historic facades of the canal houses, a horrifying tragedy was unfolding. In a hidden annex on the Prinsengracht, a young Jewish girl named Anne Frank was writing in her diary, chronicling her life in hiding, while the sound of marching boots echoed outside. Her story has become a universal symbol of the human cost of that time. The desperation in the city reached its peak in the winter of 1944, a period known as the Hunger Winter. People were cold, they were starving, and in a really heartbreaking sign of just how bad things got, the beautiful old trees lining the iconic canals were chopped down by residents who were just desperate for firewood to survive. When the war was finally over, the city was scarred. Most profoundly, the deportation and murder of the city's huge Jewish population left a void, an emptiness that could never truly be filled. Entire neighborhoods, which were once these vibrant centers of Jewish life, now stood hauntingly silent. But if we've learned anything, it's that Amsterdam's story is one of resilience. After the war and a period of rebuilding, the city did what it always does. It reinvented itself. It shook off its somber past and burst into the 1960s as a global capital of counterculture, of freedom, and of rebellion. This was the time of the Provos, a kind of playful, anarchist youth movement that challenged the old guard with clever protests and ideas like the White Bicycle Plan, basically free bikes for everyone. Amsterdam became the hippie capital of Europe, a magnet for young people from all over the world looking for freedom, love, and just a different way to live. And that rebellious, free-thinking spirit led directly to the city we see today. This chart says it all, really. In a world that became completely dominated by the car, Amsterdam said, no thanks, and chose a different path. The bicycle is the absolute king of the street here. It's this beautiful, organized chaos that somehow, against all odds, just works. So what is Amsterdam today? Well, it's a city forged by all these different layers of history. At its core, it is still deeply tolerant. That's a direct legacy of its golden age, when it was a refuge for the free thinkers of the world. And yeah, it's also rebellious, that spirit of questioning authority, of doing things a little differently, the spirit of the Provos, that has always been in its DNA. It's still a city of trade. That old merchant spirit from the golden age is alive and well, making it this dynamic, international hub for business and new ideas. And of course, it is forever defined by water. It was the city's greatest challenge and its greatest gift. The canals are like its veins, shaping its life, its rhythm, and its beauty. And finally, yes, it's a city of bicycles. It's really the perfect symbol of its modern identity. Practical, democratic, and just a little bit chaotic. Which brings us right back to where we started. A city built on an impossible swamp that got incredibly rich on global trade, was deeply scarred by war, and was then reborn in a spirit of freedom. It's a city of beautiful contradictions. So, I'll leave you with that question from Camos to chew on. Is Amsterdam a heaven built in hell?